Hi everyone, Jane here. Thank you so much for watching today. Today I'm getting out some of my more neglected mediums, but also this journal, which is the Etchr Sketchbook. It's the A4 journal. I don't often use it. I've only done a few pages in it, more so because of the size and fitting it on camera and fitting it on my desk. But I thought it would be fun to use today. It's the cold pressed version and it's the landscape orientation, and I decided I'd like to do some grid art journey because I felt like I wanted to cut loose, do a bit of sort of mixed media with some fun products. So I've gridded out with some of this blue painter's tape. I will list everything I've used in the description box as usual, and I'm starting off by spritzing my paper with some water, and then I've got these Spectrum Noir inks. Now I had a massive collection of these because I got them really cheap at one point, but I've actually given most of them away to the charity shop, but I kept a selection to still use. But they're watercolour inks. I don't really use them very often. To be totally honest, they live in a drawer and I forget they're there. So I thought I'd get them out. So I went for some sort of primary-ish colours. Now, they don't have colour names, they have numbers, so I will list those numbers. And I just went a bit mad. I decided that I was just going to just fling some colour down, and then I decided I'm going to stick some of these pigment powders. Now these are the Drunken Dusts from Pretty Gets Gritty, from Dirty Gurty, part of Pretty Gets Gritty. They are a UK based company, and they are just the plain pigment. They haven't got any mica or anything. So I've chosen three sort of primary-ish colours, so again they will be listed in the description box. Now as you can see, there was a lot of puddling on this page, so I decided that rather than leave it for about a week to dry, I would get rid of some of that colour. I started off being a little bit gentle, and then I thought, no, I'm going to go in with some kitchen towel. Also because obviously I've got the three primary colours there, so when they all mix together, they can become a bit brown in tone. So by actually lifting it, I think I got a much nicer result because it lifted some of that brown mixing out before it could settle, and I got left with the nice bright colours, and where we got mixes, we got secondary colours as well. So I was really happy with how that turned out, and I decided I needed something bold over the top, but I didn't want to go for black paint for my stenciling, so I chose this. It's called Stroke of Midnight. It's by Indigo Blue, again another UK based company, and I'm using this Dylusions stencil that I have had for quite a long time. I'm not even sure if it's still available. It's probably called Alphabet or Letters or something like that, because I liked the size of the letters in there. And I'm just using that Stroke of Midnight, which is like a very dark blue, more towards an indigo colour, because it was just, not quite black. I didn't want the black at this point in my background, but I did want something dark. So I went in using the stencil quite as a whole for a change, and then I went in adding little extra bits. And I've got a stencil brush, it's a Finnabair one, and I'm just putting not too much paint through the stencil at times. Then I wanted to add into the background. Now by this point I really felt it was like giving me graffiti vibes, so I went for some really bold mark making stamps, and these are from Lemon Creation, Asha Marquette. Unfortunately she doesn't make physical products anymore, but she does still have a store called I think it's Lemon Creation shop, which does digital products if you are interested in any of those things. Now I picked out some colours of Archival ink, and to be honest, as I started stamping with some of them, they weren't really giving me the effect I wanted. I did want it to be in the background, but some of them were really very, very pale. So I will list the colours I've used. I think it was Evergreen, Bough, Mermaid, Lagoon, Wild Honey, picked Raspberry because I decided I needed something a little bit brighter in there. And then I did go in with my jet black with one of the stamps towards the end of this part. But, it's whatever colours you're happy with. I sort of tried to match my colours to the colours in the background. That's always a good way of making sure you get more coherence, is by trying to, continue a theme of a colour or a set of colours. I was going for a rainbow more in this project. So I wasn't too worried whether the colours match, but I did want to sort of try and pick out those colours a little bit. So I'm going with quite bold shaped stamps. They're not anything in particular, they're very much mark making stamps, but I wanted to really embrace this whole graffiti-ish type of vibe. and I was just having fun. I just wanted to get some patterns and some colours and some shapes down on my page. Then I'm going in with the black, it's got like a barcode stamp, and I was using it around the edges of the squares, because sometimes if you, in this, I wanted there to be some definition to the squares once I remove that tape. And to get that, sometimes you don't really want lots of white space around the edges, because otherwise it obviously just blends into the page in general. So I was trying to create a little bit of a border. I didn't want to have them totally, you know, like a line around them, but I did want some sort of bordering, so that's why I used that. And then I decided that it now needed that opposite contrast. We've got the dark, so now I wanted a bit of lightness in there. So I'm going in with my Copic Acrea. Now, really, I probably should have waited for this all to have been a lot more dry than it was, but the Copic Acrea coped okay. I know some people don't like the Copic Acreas. I have seen people online who say they don't, but I find them really useful. I like the fine tip. I think with all paint pens, you've got to be mindful that, number one, you need to mix them really, really well. They do settle inside the pen if they're the shaky uppy ones. So you really do need to shake them up very well, probably much more than you think you do. And also they are a tip that if you go over wet things, it is going to damage them. You know, you really should leave things to thoroughly dry before you. I'm the worst person in the world because I'm so impatient and I don't. But, you know, if you want them to last, that's really what you should do. I used my heat tool to be drying my background, but also to heat that adhesive a little bit. It actually worked okay on this Etchr sketchbook, so it wasn't a problem. And then I decided, did I want to leave this as just a background, or did I want to add some more focal points with some collage? And I decided that I did. So I've gone for the Unruly ones by Collage Soup. This is one of my favourite books at the moment. I'm just loving all the little characters. Now these 3 little characters were all in a row, and I cut them apart to make them 3 separate girls, and they did have quite lots of wispy hair coming up, and I did cut that off. I tried a little bit of cutting the wisps into it, and then it was just too much and I couldn't cope, and I thought they looked quite cool sitting on those blocks at the top. Then this is a sentiment from Dylusions by Diane Reevely, and it's the Bigger Back Chat Set 2 it's from, and these are quite sort of some of them are very snarky, some are a little just a bit more tongue-in-cheek, some are just quite funny. And I went for this one because I thought it went very well with the little characters. I think it's something like, when I said I was normal, I may have been exaggerating, or something like that. I may have exaggerated slightly, something like that, which I thought was quite funny. And even though these are self-adhesive, I do always add a little bit of glue. So the glue I'm using is the Cosmic Shimmer White acrylic glue. It dries clear, it dries matte. Well, I don't really know if it dries, because I always make sure that I keep my squidginess to a minimum. But it's a really nice, good, solid glue that I always like to use. Glue has gone up so much in price over the last few years, I've noticed. So, you know, if you get a glue that you like, I'd just say just stick with it, because, you know, you could try something else and it not be for you. And then I just outlined my words with my white pen again, just to help them stand out a little bit with it. There you go. When I told you I was normal, I may have exaggerated. I still didn't see the end word. It may say slightly. We'll see it in a sec. And so there it is. There is my grid journal background with a little bit of collage on the top. Sometimes I leave my grid art journaling just as grid art journaling. Sometimes I feel like I just need to put something on it. I mean, that's the great thing with art journaling. Slightly was at the end of that sentiment. So I got distracted. But, you know, it's whatever you feel like doing at the time. Now, thank you ever so much for watching. At the end, you'll see a list of my lovely super supporters. These are my YouTube members. There's more info about that in the description box below. Please do give this video a like with a thumbs up if you've enjoyed it. If you haven't already subscribed, I'd love it if you could do that. Hit that hype button if you see it. Leave a comment. All of these things really help creators on YouTube, especially the smaller ones, because it tells YouTube that you've enjoyed it and to promote it a bit more. So until the next time, thank you so much for watching, and bye-bye.